This is No Weight Loss Required. And today's topic is, what does a balanced meal look like? I mean, what does it actually look like? And we do Sunday coffee. For those that don't know me, we do it once a month on a Sunday, and it is kind of a little perk for our paid subscribers. And we're in a transition right now. So we're transitioning from the fourth step on the roadmap, which is sustainable self care. And we're transitioning back into the first step, which is not subtracting from our diet. So adding balance. So we want to add food, and specifically, we really want to add balance. Mm, big slurp there. Anyways, so I wanted to jump in and really talk about the transition piece. So, transitioning from this concept of belonging and sustainable self care into this idea of adding to our diet. So, there's a transition there, and we're starting the cycle over again. So, for those of you that haven't been to the Substack website itself, so when you go to No Weight Loss Required on Substack, if you go to that website itself, you'll actually see that all of the steps of the roadmap have been broken down. So you can go see step one, step two, step three, step four. And if you jump down to step four, there are a lot of free recordings available. If you're not a paid subscriber, and if you are a paid subscriber, there's many paid videos available for you. And the reason why we spent, 3 months on this idea of belonging is there's a lot about diet culture that prevents us and has trained us not to feel like we belong. And you belong. So you don't earn belonging, you have belonging. And one of the things that diet culture has really made us feel like is we have to be trying to lose weight. We have to be trying to be good. Um, and then we can belong. Then we can join the people who are already thin or are trying to become thin. And it's kind of like a rite of passage. Actually, when I think about it, maybe diet culture does a lot of hazing. Seems a little bit more accurate. And I broke down belonging into a couple of different phases, but I think the first one I broke down sustainable self care into a couple of different um, concepts. And the first one is belonging, second is ease, and third is feeling seen and heard. Now, there's two more, well, one more exactly. Uh, After seen and heard is um, ease, belonging, ease, seen and heard, non judgment. And when we feel seen and heard without being judged, it's really a game changer for pretty much everybody. Um, and so the non judgment piece, I think, is one of those things when we talk about food, go back to step one. We're talking about adding food. We're trying to do that, and you're not trying to judge yourself when you add food. So I think that skill set is really it's easy to forget that in step four we talked about non-judgment. So in step one, we still want to bring that forward. Yeah. And if that's a struggle, you can always leave me a message and I'll get right there for you. Mm. So let's get into this idea of um, what the problem is when we try to add food. So when we think about creating a meal, we think about how do I create a balanced diet? A lot of times we focus on a single nutrient. So maybe it's not eating carbs, or maybe it's only eating protein. Maybe it's, only having vegetables and protein together. And so what winds up happening is we can focus a lot on a number and not actually get to the balance piece. And I think that is kind of the heart of why I did this. So we're going to go through building a balanced diet using five steps. And I think you noticed I like lists. It's yeah. So I like lists. So the first thing that we want to do is we want to understand, we want to translate protein guidelines into from a day to a meal. And I'm just going to use a very typical protein guideline, which is 75 grams. So if we said to ourselves, okay, I don't want to eat a single nutrient, but because diets are layered, they're not it's not a balanced diet if you just eat protein. So we're going to take an amount of protein, 75 grams, and we're going to break it into three pieces because you eat 3 meals a day. And a lot of people are like, I don't eat 3 meals a day. Well, you could divide it by the number of meals, but you're gonna kind of start seeing like it's a lot of protein if I only eat 2 meals a day, or if I only eat 1 meal a day. Now, 25 grams of protein actually is not very hard to hit, because if you're in a rush, a lot of people will grab like a protein shake, which is 30 grams, or they might grab like a high protein yogurt. And yep, you're meeting your protein needs, and that's great. Congratulations. It's just not very fulfilling. It's kind of like, meh. It doesn't really feel nourishing. So that's kind of a bummer. So we starting with protein, and next we want to add those carbohydrates. And carbohydrates are essential for fiber, which is, really key. They help us chew and feel full. They also give us energy. So our brain runs on carbohydrates. Our red blood cells run on carbohydrates. So we kind of want carbs in our diet because we get less cranky. Um, they also, again, we talked about fiber, so pooping is really good. Next step, we're going to add those color, texture, volume, and that's those non-starchy vegetables. This really makes a meal look like it's a lot, so it gives it a lot of volume. It's very appealing because we've got all this color and texture. So that's step three. Step four is try to find a fun way of understanding fat, and fat is very confusing. So um, specifically saturated fat, and if we count the number of feet, um, that is really helpful. So, how many feet came to this meal? And not inches, not, yards, feet, as in the number of feet the animal walked on. So, think of it as a non restrictive way to understand saturated fat. So, if you're cooking in butter, that's 4 foot. If you're cooking in like Pam or olive oil, no feet. Mm. So, we're going to do this with eggs, and just kind of breaking it down step by step. So, and then we'll be able to assemble a full meal. So if we start with 2 eggs, it's about 12 grams of protein. And to hit that 25-gram mark, you're going to need to add to your meal more than eggs. Now, lots of people like cottage cheese. It's a personal favorite of mine when you mix it into the eggs. You don't really taste it, makes it nice and fluffy, so that's nice. Cheese is always great. So that's a really good one to have and kind of mix into the eggs. Now, the next thing you could do, of course, is you could have a side of something. So you could have like a sausage. You could have, a side of something. So if you like eggs and you wanted a side of, say, Greek yogurt, you could do that. But if we just focus in on the eggs, adding into the eggs would be fine. Now we want to add in the carbohydrates. So step two is adding carbs and fiber. And I always would talk about fiber because, like I said, it helps us poop. But fiber is actually a one way of really determining if um, there's more nutrition and less processing in the foods that we're eating. And so when we think about fiber, we're really, um, it's a way for us to recognize it's less processed. And I think a lot of times when people say, "Oh, Margaret, you want me to add carbohydrates, I should go eat a donut." I didn't say that. I mean, you're welcome to go eat a donut if you want a donut, but at no point is adding carbs saying, "Hey, you should go eat a donut." And I just spilled my coffee. Forgive me while I mop that up. Um, so we want to add these fiber. And so fruit is an easy win for a lot of people. They could have eggs and some fruit because it's a type of carbohydrate. If we choose things, fruits that are high in fiber, um, that would actually raise your fiber intake. And foods or fruits that are high in fiber tend to be ones that you eat the skin and they have a lot of seeds. So though they say bananas have fiber, I'm still not suspicious. I'm not convinced. Um, so things that would be less impacting on your blood sugars, um, bananas for a lot of people do impact their blood sugars. And again, when I was a dietitian, there wasn't any fiber in bananas, and now there is. So I'm a little sus on that one. Um, because you'll see it, and sometimes it will say there's 3 grams, and sometimes it said there won't. There's none. And again, I think it's, how big is the banana? Um, and um, yeah, so for that, that's kind of where I am. But we know that berries are very high in fiber. And there's a unicorn out there, which is avocado, which is again odd. I don't know why avocado has fiber, but it does. So that's an easy one if you like eggs. That can be a great one to add either to um, the meal itself or to the bread that you're eating. So if you choose like a high fiber bagel, a bagel thin, those are really popular. Whole wheat, anything with 3 or more grams of fiber is a great choice. And berries are high, peaches, pears, plums if you eat the skin. So those are also going to be high. When we talk about adding volume, we're talking about adding in the color, texture. And so if you enjoy vegetables, that would be one way of doing it. If you don't, again, the fruit is going to give you a lot of color and a lot of texture. And I think things that people forget is, well, does it really give me any nutrition? I mean, it's just a little bit of my eggs. And I'm like, a little bit counts. I mean, if you talk about things like adding peppers, a bell pepper is like very high in vitamin C. So my show notes are like, a bell pepper is like 50% of your vitamin C, even if you have just a few strips of it. So again, really high vitamin, a lot of vitamin C in, kiwis. There's a lot of vitamin C in strawberries. So it's odd, but yes, every little bit helps. So the next step 4 that we want to talk about is this idea that um, if we count the number of feet that are available, that's a way for us to lower saturated fat. So, so 4-footed animals are beef, pork, and then any whole fat um, dairy. So beef, pork, lamb. Obviously, veal is a cow, so that would be 4 foot. And they have the most saturated fat. Two-footed animals, so chicken, turkey, and then reduced fat, or like a 2% dairy, would have less saturated fat. And no-feeded would be like fish and non-fat dairy. They have the lowest. I also include fish in there. And keep in mind that I'm not talking about cholesterol, I'm talking about saturated fat. So fish also is very low in saturated fat. And for a lot of people, you might turn around and say, like, hey, I'm so okay with having like a chicken sausage versus a pork sausage. Or if I'm adding to my eggs, adding maybe a low fat or a reduced fat cheese. So that might be something to think about. Mm. So when we kind of put this all together, we're starting to think, oh, I have my eggs, 12 grams of protein. I'm going to add some protein to those eggs. I can add it into the eggs. So I could add cheese into the eggs. I could add scrambled and cottage cheese. Then we wanna add carbohydrates, and my carbohydrates can look like bread. I can make, like, an egg sandwich, and I can look around and say, "What breads are high in fiber?" If you have a TJ's near you, they have a great high fiber bread. I think it has 4 or 5 grams of protein of, carbs, fiber to it, 15 grams of carbs. A lot of the high, high fiber breads, the whole wheats, they actually have a good source of protein to them. I think the Dave's Killer Bread has 3 grams of protein to it, so 2 slices is 6 grams. Again, bumping you back up to that 18 now from 12 to 18, so it's helping you get a little bit more. Um, yeah, so now we're adding that volume, and the non-starchy vegetables, they don't have as much fiber as you might think, and we'll talk more about that. But yeah, they're gonna add color and texture, really make it feel like it's a big meal. And a lot of people are like, "Well, I could make, like, scrambled eggs with cheese and cottage cheese and veggies, and I could put it in the oven and bake it like a crustless quiche." You could, yeah. And you can cut it in squares. You don't have to make them pretty like little egg muffin bites because it's harder to clean up that, muffin tray. Yeah, it is. Um, so just kinda thinking about making it easier for you. So I always love that. Um, and once we do that, we just wanna look and say, like, "Is there a way for me to decrease the number of feet in the meal?" And that's gonna be that whole process. So because you guys are paid subscribers, we're gonna be doing this process, figure out how to add to your diet, step 1. Stop subtracting, start adding. We're gonna be doing this for the next, 3 months. So for all of July, August, and September, we're gonna be talking about adding to our diet. And that's the first step in the No Weight Loss Required roadmap. So, stop subtracting, stop eliminating foods, but we're gonna add back in balance. And the question I always like to ask is, what could I add to this meal that would bring it more balance? So we're at that place where I get to really, really speak to you directly and say, when we talk about a non diet approach to changing your diet, changing your eating, the person that matters is you. It is about your experience. You're aligning to your values, you're not aligning to my values. And you're aligning to your experience. When you become aware of your direct experience, when I eat eggs like this, what is my experience? That's really what we're trying to get at. You might turn around and say, I don't like peppers. That's fine. It's okay. You don't have to like peppers. You might turn around and say, like, I'm not comfortable eating, a bagel. Don't eat a bagel. No one's telling you to do this. I'm trying to paint a picture and I'm saying, check in with your direct experience. What is your experience? Lots of people tell me I'm uncomfortable eating carbohydrates because I villainize them. That's what diet culture does. It makes us afraid, and that makes us need the diet more because 'cause we're afraid. So, in a non-diet approach, you're stepping away from somebody else telling you, so the diet is what is oppressing you. The diet is saying, "You can eat this, you can't eat that. You should do this, you shouldn't do that." And then this approach, you're turning around saying, "What supports my body?" Nutrition supports your body. There's never gonna be a day in your life where you don't benefit from being nourished. Well, the day you die. That's it. That's the only day you don't benefit from being nourished. Hunger is gonna happen. Not a bad thing. People say when I eat breakfast, I get hungry. Yay. Yep, that happens. It's supposed to happen. That's your body saying, "Hi, time to eat." So when we get into this journey together, we're really sticking with I'm here to help you with those sticky feelings, the ones that just no. And because when we hear add food to your diet, it's almost like you're an animal that's been chained your whole life to this very short diet leash, and when you unclip yourself and you're like, "I can eat anything I want," you run around. You're like, "I'm free." And when you think like, "Oh, I gotta stop doing that. I gotta go back on the diet," that part of you is saying, "I don't wanna be clipped again. I don't wanna be on that 3-foot diet leash anymore." And so think about this program as like a nice, saved, fenced-in area, but you're still free. I'm not gonna put you on that leash anymore. And the intention here is that the more you listen to your own direct experience, the more you connect to your own direct experience, the more you are going to be able to say, I know what I need. You are the one saying, I know what I need. I know how to support myself here. I know what a balanced diet looks like. Yeah, this is all step one. Take care, everyone. It's been wonderful being with you all, and I hope to see you soon.